Kicking off our netball reports, and of course our theme for this week is a roundup of the country champs that took place in Adelaide over last weekend. We're starting off in the Western Eyre Netball Association with Reanna Freeman. Welcome, Reanna. How are you, and how did everything go in Adelaide over the weekend?
I am very well, thank you. Come off a fabulous weekend in Adelaide for country champs. I was privileged enough to go over and pretend to coach the A-grade team. But let's not pretend that I actually did any coaching. These girls were an outstanding group and virtually coached themselves. Give them a quick mention. Emma Willis, Durrani Hoffrichter, Soph Kellett, Chelsea from Wirrala. Sorry, Chelsea, I've forgotten your last name for a second. Jazz Billing, Hayley Webb, Nikki Sleep, Courtney Trowbridge and Marnie Burge were the 9 girls, very talented Western Eyre girls that went over to Adelaide for country champs. We had a fabulous weekend, really close games, 2 draws and a win by 1 on the first day. On the second day, I think we were down by 4 at halftime to Wales, who are renowned to be a fabulous team at this carnival, and then ended up winning by 15. Just sort of wasted a bit of ball, and then played Port Lincoln, which is always, whenever we face someone who is from the EP, we always want to come out on top. And unfortunately, we didn't in this game. We lost by 6. Which we were quite disappointed about, but we definitely had the ball in this game and just made some silly decisions and silly choices, and they punished us for us. But we ended up making the semi-final, which was Western Eyre versus North Eastern. Now, these guys were in a different pool to us, so we hadn't faced them, and we knew that they had given both Great Flinders and Eastern Eyre a fair beating. And when they played them, they're an outstanding side. So we went into it not really knowing what we're going to face, but up and ready for the challenge. Absolute outstanding game. We had a draw, so this was to make the grand final. The girls, a very physical game, hard at the ball, and a sort of physical game that we hadn't played all weekend. So the girls were up for the challenge and held strong. Emma Willis and Durrani Hoffrichter combined really well in goals, both tall, agile, and strong under the ring. So they were fantastic. And then we had Hayley and Nikki in defence, who were outstanding. So we had a draw and then had to play on 5 minutes up each end, which after a weekend carnival of netball is a hard thing to do, and especially with such a physical game. Very happy to have come out on top by 4 goals, 28 to 32, which then seen us go through to the grand final. We had to play Mid-South-East, which we had actually faced the day before and had a draw. So we sort of knew what they were about and knew how to approach the game. It was a really good game. At half-time it was 15-all, so another draw, but with still a half to go. And we unfortunately didn't come away with a win, ended up losing by 6. But it was 100% due to just the girls running out of legs after having that draw, and a physical game before the grand final, just another 15 minutes on the court. So we came runners up, wore medallions around our necks all weekend, and if anyone assumed we won, we certainly didn't correct them. So had a very successful and wonderful weekend in Adelaide, and a huge shout out to Emma Willis, who made the top 10 of the carnival for the A grade, which is a huge honour and most definitely well deserved by Emma. She was outstanding all weekend. And another huge shout out to Sarah Evans, who we've now named Sarah B Badge Evans, because she was successful in gaining her B badge in umpiring, which is not an easy thing to do. The first time she attempted to get it and was successful. So a huge weekend for Western Eyre Netball.
Massive weekend indeed. Sounds very successful and very fun as well. So we'll be looking forward to hearing the reports from our other netball correspondents later in the show and hearing about how everyone else went at Country Champs. But yes, big congratulations to those who brought home medals and to those who got their umpiring accreditations as well. So yeah, massive weekend. Looking forward to hearing more about it. But for the time being, we're going to cast our minds all the way back to the 3rd of June, round 6, and run through the results from those games, because we haven't been through them with you yet, and there were a couple of really close games that I'm keen to hear about. So we'll start off with Thevenard getting a win by 9 goals over the Hawks. Now, 3 wins separating these teams on the ladder, so close but no cigar for the Hawks, but got to be pretty happy with that effort.
Absolutely. Look, last time we played them, we lost by 2, and we were hoping, I think like every team, to progress and then get a win on the board for this one. Disappointed that we didn't, but Sevi were outstanding. I thought Courtney and Tracy played beautifully under the ring. Courtney came over to Adelaide on the weekend and she was outstanding. She's having a great season and doesn't miss. They sort of got us in the first half. They came out firing and would have got 4 or 5 goals before we got one. First quarter they were up by 4, and the second quarter they were up by 8. So they had two quarters of the game by 4, and then the last half was pretty even. So a really good game, and all credit to Sevi. They were outstanding. Sort of drew Hawks in to play their game, and that's what we did. We sort of chased them all game. So a good win to Sevi, and Hawks obviously disappointed we didn't come away with the win.
And it really does show the how close this competition is, that there can be 3 wins in between those teams, looking at 4-1 Thevenard, 1-3 with a draw for the Hawks, and yet single digits separating them in that game. And this next game illustrates it really well. Also, Wirrala haven't lost on the season yet, 5-0. Western United 1-3-1, but just 3 points separating them, with Wirrala, just doing enough to stay undefeated there.
Yeah, look, I think these teams actually have some really good matchups. I think Wirrala are still sort of playing around, working out their combinations, because they do have quite a large team. I think it's 9 or 10 they're running with for the season. So, and they're sort of finding each other. Chelsea Webster, who I couldn't remember her last name before, is their mid-core, and I think she's just sort of settling in. So I think once she hits the ground running, I think that will make a difference with connecting both their ends. Westies, I think this was the first game for the year that they had all 7 for the team. So I think that just shows that what these girls have got when they've got a full team. So I think these girls are not to be underestimated. I think they're going to be an incredible team. And as you said, it's going to make for a very tight season.
Yeah, exciting for Westies if they're getting back to health, because like I said, they only lost by 3. Thevenard, who have only lost to Wirrala this season, lost by 5 the week prior. So, yeah, the competition's getting really close, and Westies could be a smoky to make a run at it in the second half of the season. So we'll definitely be keeping an eye on that, and it'll kick off this weekend. They're playing against your Hawks, the Tigers. So how do you think you'll fare against them now that they're at full strength?
Yeah, I'm really excited about this game. A, to see them at full strength, and B, Durrani Hoffricht is just coming over to Adelaide on the weekend. I thought she played the association game and then played at Lock and then played at Country Champs. And with every association game, she gained in confidence. She's always had a really good skill base, but just probably lacks in a bit of confidence. So I think that's sort of really built her up really well. I'm not sure that was the smartest thing for me to do, being that we're a Hawks, that I'm for the Hawks, but I'm really excited to sort of see how she brings that back to her club netball and how she applies it to the court. Chloe Ettridge is on fire in defence, and it'd be good to see Nakia Skinner back on the court. She didn't play last time we played them, so I think this team is building to be something very special. Hawks, at the moment, still to confirm with one player, but this will be our first game for the season with a full side also. So as a coach, that is exciting, and it means that I've got a bit of options when it comes to positions on the court for the first time this year. So I think this will be a really good game, a draw last time. Look, I think almost Westies will come in favourites, being that they've got a lot smaller margins with the top teams than what we have. But as I say every week, like a broken record, I'm not going to go against my girls. I think they've got what it takes. We just have to put it on the court.
All right, so it was a draw last time you met with the Tigers, 34 apiece way back in round 2. But like you said, both teams getting back to full strength could certainly be a couple of smokies of the competition as we get into the latter half of the year. So excited to see how that one plays out. And in our other game for the weekend, the Sejuna Blues will have their work cut out for them, still searching for their first win. They're going to be taking on Thevenard.
Yeah, so Blues have just had 2 weeks off. They had the bye before Country Champs, so just sort of depending on what they did in that time, whether they trained or just sort of took some time to reset. Sevi are a very calculated team. I think Courtney has a lot of strategies in place so that these girls know where they need to be and when they need to be there. So I think that's probably a really strong point for them. They beat Blues by 20 last time, and I think that has a lot to do with it. They're confident within each other. They back each other and have got everything running really well. Blues have got some really good players, and I know their coach is all about strategies, but I don't know that they've quite got them in place yet. So I think Blues still building. Casey Grenfell, a beautiful shooter and a really tall target, but she's going to have a really hard time against Nikki Sleep and Lindsay Denton, both in defence, who are a bit of a machine together. They play so well together. They play a very similar game and are hard to beat. So I think it just sort of depends on how they match up. And Hayley Clayton and Talene Ettridge have been playing really well for Blues in defence. I'm not sure whether Cassie is back for Sevi. If she's not, Tracy Miller will stay in goals. And last time we played them, Tracy played goals, and it was certainly beautiful to see her back in the goal ring. She's a beautiful shooter and worked well with Courtney. So although Blues, I think, have got a lot of potential there, Sevi have hit their straps and are going strong. So I would tip Sevi for a win at this one.
All right, we'll see how that one plays out as well. Big weekend of netball ahead in the Western Eyre Association. Reanna, thank you very much for joining us once again. Enjoy the netball this weekend. Hopefully your Hawks play well, and we'll chat to you next week.
No worries. Thanks very much for having me.